But who better than me?
Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid, and special guest co-host, Mbaku Panther. Again, please like and subscribe, share this video with a friend, share it with a colleague, enemy, associate, whomever. Also click the notification just so you get the updates of when the new videos drop. And yeah, let's get this one started. Okay, so a place I'm gonna start is Joe Smith Jr. defending his WBO light heavyweight championship for the first time against Steve Graffard. I watched the fight this morning. I didn't stay up to watch it, so I watched it on YouTube afterwards. What do I think about the fight itself? It weren't great. That's about as nice as I can be. I mean, Graffard wasn't terrible, but considering he's never boxed past an 8-round contest before, and he's never boxed in anything over an 8-round contest as well, didn't really leave much confidence, because ultimately, how do you know that you're ready for that level when you haven't even done a 10-rounder, let alone a 12-rounder? So in a lot of those early rounds, you could see that he was being economical with what he would throw just to make sure that he could last the distance. Constantly having that high guard, when he, from what I've been told of him and the little bits and pieces I've seen, he's very much a boxer, like a stick and move type of guy. So to be constantly in a high guard throughout the entire fight was very confusing to me. Anyone who knows anything about Joe Smith Jr., the worst guard to have against him is a high guard, because he's a guy that, while he doesn't have the greatest amount of technical ability and skill, he has unquestionable stamina and he's very heavy-handed. So if you give him a high guard to just attack, that's what he's gonna do. And he pretty much did that for the entire fight. There were points when Graffard was actually pushing him back a little bit and was being more of an aggressor, and Joe was trying to box. And I looked at that and I was like, why are you trying to do what doesn't come natural to you? There's no rule, unless he wanted rounds to make sure that his gas tank was fine after contracting COVID a few months back. I'm not sure, but it was a very laboured performance. Graffard didn't necessarily make him look great. He didn't make himself look great, and Joe was kind of just going through the motions a lot. He was very sloppy at times as well. And I heard one of the commentators say something along the lines of Joe DeGuardia, who is Joe Smith's manager, that they offered the fight to 12 other well-ranked contenders, and all 12 of them turned it down, saying it wasn't enough time. Now, when I first heard that, the first thing I thought was, hold on a minute, but Craig Richards put his name in the hat. Are you going to say that he's no better than a Steve Graffard? I mean, they've got the same record, basically, 18-2. And obviously, Craig's also got a 1 in there as one draw. But they've got pretty much the same record. They look like, based on their level of opponents, minus Craig with Dimitri Bivol, they look like the same level of opponents they've been fighting as well. Although Craig's got more unbeaten fighters on his record than the Graffard had. So I'm wondering, how much more did they want to lie, especially when it was all over Twitter. UK Twitter saw that Craig was campaigning for the fight, had bags packed and everything. So I thought that was a little bit of a white lie being told there. Maybe they offered it to 12 American stars, I apologize, not stars, 12 American contenders, but they didn't offer it to 12 world level contenders, period, because he was accepted. He took it. That being said though, I did look in the WBO rankings and Craig ain't in there. So, quite possibly, before I crucify the people at Top Rank and, the announcer and Joe DeGuardia, maybe Craig isn't paying WBO sanctioning fees. So maybe that's why he's not ranked in their rankings. From what I can see, he's ranked in the WBC at number 15, so like a brand new entry, and number 6 or 7 in the WBA, but he's not in the IBF and he's not in the WBO, so maybe he's not paying those sanctioning fees. Now, to me, it's a mistake not to be in the WBO rankings at least, because that looks like normally the easiest route to get a title, unless you're just looking to be a regular champ for the WBA. But that being said, we all know WBO is run basically by Frank Warren and Bob Arum, so maybe you feel like there's no point being in those rankings because I'm just not going to get my opportunity anyway. Who knows? But moving forward, I would definitely say to have my name in those rankings. I mean, if Joe Smith Jr. is the champion there, it's quite conceivable that he will be dethroned at some point in the very near future. Don't get me wrong, he's actually very improved since the days of fighting sort of Dimitri Bivol and even fighting Bernard Hopkins. He's actually improved quite a bit in his boxing, and the fact he got to a title, even though in my opinion Vlasov beat him in that match, it goes to show that he has actually stepped up a level since then. But of the 3 champions, he still does look like the most vulnerable, or the one with the least reputation for anyone to sort of be not so much afraid but cautious of, and maybe not wanting to take that fight. So I mean, Craig, if you're watching, I would definitely suggest you petition to get yourself in them WBO rankings and see if you can do the WBO and the WBA simultaneously, if if that is a shot you're looking at moving forward. But who knows? But yeah, overall, wasn't a great fight. Gauffrard didn't do much. Joe Smith Jr. didn't look great. We can maybe give him a pass for having COVID a few months back, and I'll judge him on his next fight. Although, if the rumours are to be believed, he is actually now a free agent, because I think that was his final fight on Top Rank. So unless he re-signs, then obviously he can go for the Dimitri Bivol rematch if he wants, or he can attempt to fight Artur Beterbiev, who I also believe is out of contract with Top Rank now as well. I'd have to double check that, but that would be very interesting if that is the case. And if that is the case, that then throws a big spanner into the works of Frank Warren, who was banking on the Callum Johnson fight and then Anthony Yarde fighting the winner of those two as the mandatory, because he's a #1 contender, but he hasn't been called as a mandatory yet. But he was hoping to have the agreement with Bob Arum those would be the fights back to back. Well, if he's no longer on Top Rank, then Bob Arum doesn't have the power to make that fight. So where does that leave Frank, apart from having to force Anthony Yarde into a mandatory position again? It will be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, who knows what's going on? We'll wait and see. But overall, wasn't a great weekend of boxing. Luckily, the month of January is coming to an end soon, so everything's going to start ramping up in a couple of weeks. Let's get to it. So Eddie Hearn was on the, I think he was on one of the DAZN shows the other day. He's basically saying that the Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor undisputed fight at lightweight is close to being finalized, and they're looking to go on the 30th of April in Madison Square Garden, and not the Hulu Theatre, not the small room, the big room, 20,000. Now, quite frankly, I think it does deserve to be in that room, if I'm honest, because women's boxing isn't getting enough of the attention that it should. It's making strides now, because there are quite a few more women are coming through showing skills comparable to the men, plus getting knockouts as well, which is something that really does appeal to a casual market and not just the hardcore fans. So if that fight does come off on this occasion, I would definitely be tuning in to watch that. And again, it's weird to think that Eddie Hearn and Jake Paul are the reason the fight will be coming together. Now, it's funny because after what happened the previous time, I wouldn't have blamed Eddie Hearn for never wanting to see or speak to Amanda Serrano or any of her team again, because she hustled Eddie on the last occasion. Like, on 2 separate occasions, she accepted and then found a way to back out of the Katie Taylor fight. So, you know, even after, from what I can remember, Eddie Hearn loaned her money for training camps and all sorts, money that he's never even asked for back, regardless of what her manager was saying about him, regardless of things that she had maybe said about him as well. He didn't overly slate her in the public. I mean, yeah, he was upset at times, he was frustrated, he had his say, but he definitely didn't do a Bob Arum or a Frank Warren or someone like that. You know, he still kept the lines of communication open, which is probably more than I would have done, so got to respect him for that. And ultimately it seems to have paid off, because she said she wasn't being paid enough and that she wanted to increase her market value. Now technically I don't really know if she has done that, because even though she may have been getting paid more by Jake Paul, that doesn't necessarily mean that her market value increased, because people weren't buying those pay-per-views to see her face Daniela Bermudez or Miriam Gutierrez or what was the other one, Erica Cruz. They were buying it for Jake and whoever he was fighting. She just happened to sort of be getting a bit of notoriety on that front. But ultimately, I believe that while she probably wasn't getting paid the same as she had been offered for the actual Katie Taylor fight previously, she's now got a bit more of a name out there, to the point where she can ask for more money than she was offered before. And it seems like Eddie's willing to comply with that. Or maybe because it may be a Jake Paul and Eddie Hearn collab, maybe Jake Paul's going to pay her purse and Eddie's only going to pay for Katie's. I mean, that might make things a lot easier. So you take care of your fighter, I'll take care of mine. We'll see who the best one is, and, you know, grow both of their profiles off of that. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. But I'm happy that the fight seems to be going ahead. But until it happens, or until we get to that weekend and they've both weighed in, I'm not going to believe, just based on past experiences. I'm not going to count that as done until we get to the 30th of April. And yeah, they're both in the ring ready to go. But if it does happen, I will give my breakdown of how I see the fight going and my prediction a lot closer to the time. But for now, I'm gonna leave that one there. But so far so good. Looks like it might be some good news. So hey, let's hope we can get some traction on that. And long may it continue. Speak with some more women's boxing, and yeah, all good. Speaking of women's boxing, I want to make a quick address to Sandy Ryan. Now, if you guys watched my awards show the other day, I said that Sandy Ryan was my prospect of 2021 for the females, and I believe that her style will endear her to the public. Very aggressive, very come forward. She's very sort of animated in sort of the weigh-ins and in the ring, and you can tell that she's just a killer. She's just coming for war and destruction and terror. I even saw a clip of her sparring with guys the other day, and the guys were throwing like full-blooded shots at her. She was bobbing and weaving, riding some of them, and the movement was very, very classy, and I liked it. But I saw her do a Zoom interview with Ring IQ a couple of days ago now. No, it was yesterday, it was Saturday, I believe. And the first thing I thought when I was watching was the same thing I thought when I'd seen her do a couple of interviews with Matchroom, and even when she does her like conference, you know, the conference calls and the press conferences. She sounds very sort of timid and scared to speak. It borders on boring to a degree. Now, the problem is, it's not the same level of boring as maybe Terence Crawford used to be, where he literally was just, he wouldn't engage in the F3, as we might want to call it. I'm trying to keep it PG today. But like, you can tell outside, I've seen a lot of stuff of her outside the ring, like behind the scenes, and people who I know who have, you know, known her and interacted with her. Like, she's really a bit like Terence Crawford. Like, there's a big personality there. She's fun, she's bubbly, she dances about, she's, you know, she's all into her yoga and stretching, all this sort of stuff, and she just loves being in the gym and just loves active work. But in front of the camera, she just comes across as very dull. But when I look at it, it doesn't look like, oh, I just don't want to be here, I don't want to be doing this. It looks more of a, I'm scared to say anything to make people think that I'm stupid, because maybe I'm not the brightest person in the room, so I don't want to portray myself to be even less bright than I am. And I actually think she, from what I've seen of her, she comes across as, you know, fairly intelligent to a degree. I mean, she may not be, I don't know if she's book smart. I don't know anything about her like that, but that's the vibe I get. It's like everything she wants, it's almost like she wants to say something, but then, oh, if I say this, am I gonna look stupid? Is it gonna make me feel dumb? People have called me stupid my whole life, and I don't want that to be my perception now. And I would really just like to say, you know what, if that's the case, like I said, this is speculation because I don't have anything to back it, but if that is the case, like, it don't matter what other people say, like, be you. Like, the way she is on Twitter, I've seen her on Twitter, like, she's got guys like eating at the palm of her hand with certain tweets that she's making. Like, when she goes back and forth with people, like, it's sharp, it's witty, it's funny, but just none of that is coming across in interviews. And I feel like that would be the one thing to hold her back from being like a superstar. If she had Ebony Bridges' personality, not talking about showing body and sweaty socks and all that stuff, but I'm just talking about just the person, just up there, like chatterbox, ready to talk with anyone, like being a bit more smiley, or even just being a bit more reckless with what she wants to say. Like, she would be a huge star in both the UK and the US and the rest of Europe as well. And I just want her to be that, because her talent demands that people take her serious. And I think that is the next way to go. But I just feel like someone needs to just instill a bit of confidence in her when it comes to just talking to people. Because I'm pretty sure that away from a camera, you just having a general conversation with her, like, you would probably have a good time. But yeah, it just seems like on camera, she's just scared to say something that's gonna make her look or seem a certain way that she doesn't think she is. But yeah, look, like I said, that's my take on it. I just want her to grow a bit in confidence in that side and just be like, you know what, the hell with it. I'll say what I'll say. Like, if I ever need to clear and clean something up, I'll clean it up. But this is me, this is who I am, this is what, you know, and this is what I want you to get emotionally invested in, while I'm also giving you the entertainment and the knockouts in the ring. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. I was going to mention something to do with Oscar De La Hoya and Ryan Garcia and Isaac Cruz, but I'll probably leave that for another date at this point, because I don't really think it's relevant, to be honest. Anyone who's just interested to know, apparently De La Hoya says that he made Isaac Cruz a bigger offer than he got to fight Tank Davis, and it's been turned down. So ultimately it looks like Isaac might now be aligned with PBC, because he seems to maybe be doing PBC antics. Who knows, but it's enough of that. Right, I want to leave this one here. I'm going to wrap it up. Got a few things I need to do tonight, but thanks for rocking with me. Thanks for rocking with Mbaku Panther, and until next time, Hardcore Casual out.